The word sgraffito is an Italian word which means to scratch, write or mark. It is one of the earliest and most natural and primitive ways of decorating ceramics. Examples of sgraffito decorated pottery can be found dating back as far as the Byzantine era. I will begin by demonstrating the two basic sgraffito decorative techniques and illustrate them with examples shown on ceramic wares. The first is to simply scratch or incise the surface of the pot using a pointed instrument of wood or metal, or a specially made tool such as these, which are particularly useful for this kind of work. I made them from safety pins and chopsticks. It is usually done when the clay is what we call leather hard, or in other words, half dry. This would be the most basic method chosen by the potter for adding texture to a pot. Examples of pottery which have been decorated like this go back many centuries to the Bronze Age, such as this very primitive vessel, or this amphora which dates back to Etruria in Italy about 700 to 680 BC. It can still be a preferred method of texturing, as can be seen in these modern examples by British potter Alan Walwork or Japanese potter Ivona Shirahata. The obvious extension to this basic way of decoration is to create a design using the sgraffito method. There may or may not be a preconceived design, but to illustrate this, I am drawing a simple flower. It can be done freehand or traced over from a pre-drawn pattern. The decoration can then simply be glazed over on the bisque-fired pot. This very simple sgraffito style can be readily seen on these pots, which were made in the Byzantine era of from 300 to 1400 CE, in places such as Cyprus and Turkey. The subjects are figural or natural objects. Some are precise geometrical patterns or just plain doodling. They would have been glazed with a clear lead glaze on an earthenware body, and the colours of brown and green would have been added haphazardly. Iron oxide produces the brown and copper oxide gives the green colours. These metallic pigments would be splashed or brushed over the raw glaze before firing. The development from this is then to fill the sgraffito design with a coloured metallic pigment. Then it is wiped off, leaving the design highlighted by the pigment, but this is best done once the pot has been bisque-fired. I used this idea when I made this large terracotta vase. It was finished with a wiped off clear glaze and fired at a glazing temperature. Another use of this decorative style, better known to antique ceramic collectors, can be seen on the Staffordshire scratch blue saltware stonewares from the latter half of the 18th century. In this case, the decoration was applied by sgraffito to the unfired pot. After bisque firing, the sgraffito was filled in with cobalt oxide and the residue wiped off. Then the pots were salt glazed, a process in which handfuls of salt were thrown into the kiln at top temperature. The chloride was burnt out, and the sodium content of the salt reacted with the clay surface of the pot to form a glaze. A further addition can be made to this idea by colouring in the outlined Sgraffito design. Here are some examples of this application. The Newcomb pottery in the United States chose this form of decoration for the majority of its wares. And this is a delightful portrayal of the decoration. And here we see an intricately patterned vase by Deborah Laer. And these two vases of mine were done in this same manner. The second main method of decorating, which comes under the term sgraffito, is the one when a coating of coloured slip clay or engobe is painted over the surface of the clay, once again at the leather hard stage. The decoration chosen is then meticulously scratched or carved through the coloured coating. Then the whole pot is fired and glazed with a transparent, clear or coloured glaze. You can see this process in its advanced stage in this illustration. As you can see by the examples I'm showing, this method of enhancing the pot has many and various applications, and the results can be quite striking. I decorated much of my own work in this style. As shown here, these effects were the result of painting a terracotta slip over the white clay body of the object. The pattern was then carved through the slip, and the piece was finally fired with a transparent copper green glaze applied over the decoration.